Welcome back to Wild Main. So today we're doing something, well, a little bit different. We're stepping away from our usual analytical deep dives, and instead we're just going to sink right into a pure immersive story. We're talking devastating pride, crushing generational trauma, and the sheer, absolutely unstoppable gravity of inevitable fate. So let's just jump straight into the story of the alpha's ruin and the rejected bond.
Okay, picture this. You are standing right beneath these massive crystal chandeliers at the winter solstice banquet. Literally every noble alpha in the empire is there, and they're all waiting for one specific thing, the bond revelation. It's that exact, heart-stopping moment when fate itself exposes destined mates. The vibe in the room? Totally intoxicating, but dangerous. The text tells us the ballroom smelled like roses, champagne, and betrayal. I mean, just from those sensory details alone, you can feel that the air in this room is completely electric, just thick with tension.
And right at the center of this storm, we've got two unbelievably different figures. On one side, there's Alpha Kael Draven. He's cold, he's untouchable, the heir to literally the most feared bloodline in the north. Guys bow to him, and his enemies have a habit of just disappearing when he speaks. Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Lucien Vale. He's hovering at the edge of the room, nervous eyes, trembling hands, gripping a champagne glass. But he has this quiet, almost dangerous beauty about him. The contrast here is wild. You have Kael's terrifying authority right up against Lucien's quiet vulnerability, right before fate decides to flip the table.
Suddenly, the atmosphere violently shifts. Out of nowhere, this incredibly rare scent hits the air. Pure rain and cedarwood omega pheromones. Every single alpha freezes. All eyes immediately lock onto Lucien. And then, it happens. A glowing bond mark ignites right across Kael's wrist. The whole room gasps. A split second later, Lucien's wrist lights up too. In front of the entire empire, fate publicly binds these two total opposites. A perfect match. Destined mates.
The ballroom goes absolutely nuts, but Kael's face, it turns to pure ice. See, what people don't know is that Kael carries this really deep, hidden scar. His own Omega father actually abandoned his family during a war, which left Kael's mother to die defending their territory. Because of that trauma, Kael violently refuses to trust fate. He marches right up to a terrified Lucien, looks at this tiny, desperate little flicker of hope in the Omega's eyes, and just crushes it with total cold detachment. I reject this bond.
The silence that drops over the room after that is, well, it's deafening. Those words hit the ballroom harder than a gunshot, and then the sheer physical cruelty of his next sentence just shatters whatever is left. I would rather rip the mark from my skin than belong to an Omega like you. Wow. He destroys Lucien's hope in front of literally everyone who matters in the Empire. Then he just turns on his heel and walks out, leaving Lucien standing there completely alone, buried under the weight of hundreds of staring eyes. But, as you know, fate doesn't just let go. Over the next 3 years, things get intense. By year 1, Kael is basically rotting from the inside out. Without his mate, his inner wolf is becoming vicious, starving, totally restless. Suppressants aren't working, training isn't working, he's a mess. Fast forward to year 3. Kael is stuck at this incredibly boring royal negotiation summit. The ballroom doors swing open and in walks Lucien. But actually, scratch that, it is not the trembling Omega from 3 years ago. This Lucien is draped in black silk. He's elegant, he's confident, and he is stunningly untouchable. So the burning question hanging in that heavy ballroom air is, could Lucien really have moved on? The tension in the narrative just absolutely skyrockets here, because Lucien doesn't stroll into that summit alone. He's walking in with a tall, handsome, incredibly powerful alpha who is casually resting a very possessive hand right on Lucien's waist. And Kael's vision? It goes instantly dark. The alpha, standing next to Lucien, just smiles and introduces himself. I'm Adrian Moreau, Lucien's fiancé. Fiancé. I mean, that single word hits Kael like a literal knife to the ribs. His starving, feral wolf immediately snaps into this possessive frenzy. That bond, the one Kael so violently threw away, it is now absolutely screaming in his mind. Kael steps in dangerously close, and the temperature in the room just plummets. He growls that Adrian is touching what belongs to him, but Lucien just looks at him, totally calm, and drops this absolutely devastating line. No, I belonged to you once. It is the horrifying truth staring Kael right in the face. Lucien actually figured out how to live without him. Meanwhile, Kael spent the last 3 years slowly dying from his own stubborn choices. It's a moment of sheer, tragic irony, right? The most feared alpha in the Empire, A guy who literally commands armies stood completely frozen while another man touched his omega. Later that night, Kael's growing desperation finally peaks. He goes back to his chambers and just completely loses it, tearing the room apart. The terror is finally setting in. He realizes he willingly destroyed the only person the universe made specifically for him. Over the next few days at this summit, Lucien is acting perfectly normal. He's laughing with Adrian, effortlessly avoiding Kael, and it's driving Kael to the absolute brink of madness. And then we hit the breaking point. Out in the palace garden, right under these snow-covered roses, Kael catches Adrian kissing Lucien's hand. The snap of tension is immediate and violent. Kael completely loses control, floods the garden with these terrifying alpha pheromones, and in the blink of an eye, he's got his hand wrapped right around Adrian's throat. But before Kael can actually kill the guy, Lucien steps in and grabs Kael's wrist to stop the attack. The absolute second their skin touches, it detonates 3 years of suppressed longing, need, and just raw pain. The bond surges so violently between them. Kael looks at Lucien in total shock, like a man who's been starving his whole life, and his voice just breaks as he asks, "Why can I still feel you?"
Lucien goes completely silent. Really slowly, he pulls back his sleeve. What he reveals is this horrifying physical evidence of his survival. There's a brutal, jagged scar crossing right over the bond mark on his wrist. Bond suppression. Let me tell you, that is one of the most agonizing procedures an Omega can ever endure. And Lucien went through it entirely alone, all because Kael's rejection made it literally impossible for him to even breathe.
Seeing that, Lucien's emotional walls finally crack, and all these years of pain bubble to the surface. He tells Kael how loving him felt like drowning. But then, he lets the true weight of it all sink in with this confession. Even after all of it, part of me still waited for you. Kael steps forward, completely destroyed, realizing that Lucien loved him through all of it anyway. But Lucien backs away, terrified, and Kael suddenly gets it. Lucien isn't afraid of being hurt again. He's absolutely terrified of forgiving him.
After that garden encounter, Kael completely flips the script. He starts pursuing Lucien desperately. He's making these very public, wildly uncharacteristic apologies that have the entire empire in shock. But then, his final shred of hope gets suddenly ripped away. The royal family drops a massive political announcement: Lucien and Adrian's wedding. It's a strategic marriage to unite 2 territories. Kael just stops functioning. Fate still says Lucien is his, but Lucien is making the choice to be with someone else.
Which brings us to this breathlessly theatrical climax, right during the first snowfall of winter. The cathedral is packed with nobles. Lucien is standing at the altar looking totally unreachable. The ceremony starts, but then Kael makes his desperate final move. He bursts right through those heavy cathedral doors, snow still clinging to his coat. Breaking literally every single rule of his alpha pride, he marches directly up to Lucien, drops to his knees, and offers up his family crest in an act of total, undeniable surrender.
Looking up with these completely shattered eyes, Kael's voice is raw, it's desperate. I was cruel because I was afraid. He finally lays it all out there, his generational trauma, confessing how his mother died for a broken bond, and how he convinced himself that loving an Omega would end up destroying him too. He admits right there in front of everyone that he hated the bond simply because it made him need Lucien.
Kael is fully crying at this point, and the silence inside that cathedral is so heavy you could cut it with a knife. This is not the feared alpha of the North anymore. This is absolute ruin. He's begging the man he humiliated 3 years ago. His tearful plea just echoes into the quiet. Choose me this time. He leaves his entire fate, everything he is, right at Lucien's feet.
Lucien is just staring down at him, remembering every single painful night he spent loving Calvent anyway. The tension in the room is unbearable. And then, Adrian steps forward. He sighs super dramatically and just perfectly slices through the heavy atmosphere. Well, this is awkward. I should probably mention the engagement wasn't real. You guys, the entire cathedral erupts into absolute chaos. Calvent is left kneeling there completely stunned, realizing he just laid his entire soul bare over a fake engagement that was only designed to protect Lucien.
Lucien lets out a sigh, looks down at a completely shell-shocked Kael, and whispers, "You really are an idiot." Kael just laughs, this weak, relieved laugh through his tears. Slowly, Lucien reaches out. The absolute second their fingers intertwine, the bond just explodes to life. Golden light wraps around both their wrists. It's stronger than before. It's permanent.
fate accepts them again. So I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder here on Wild Mane. In the end, was it really fate that truly saved them? Or was it the courageous choice to finally let go of their pride? Thanks for letting me share this incredible story with you today. I really hope you found it as fascinating as I did.